Hello, Mr. President, and people associated with networks and humor. Like, for example, there are people on off WFSB locations, like with with Weathersfield Police and other police and fire, and they're involved with all kinds of natures of jobs, not because of training. Everyone's a victim of an ancient. I mean, since before our founders' births, since semi-ancient. This is what religions and the Constitution's not allowed free speech because we have evidence racketeering. We have jobs associated. We have criminal uses of the Weathersfield parks. We have criminal uses of the identity of the ground locations because they're involving little kids in sequence shifts and in live progressions tied to racketeering where they're stacking fake conversations between people. They're making moments of fake conversations and they're lying about what led up to it, tied to the sequence shift racketeering, which already kept and keeps live progressions with uses of each position's value, where and as and how it counts, where a fact, cheap in nature value, and being able to counter the real causes of all the negative of the predicate acts, like mail crimes, whole mail crime methods, whole wire crime methods that recorded motivated. Now, see, you have if we're all going to go out on a stage and act, which is why also the acting department at CCSU, Jane Hamilton, Wesleyan College, whole bunch of people involved with racketeering with evidences, identity theft, identity fraud, as people associated with criminal justice department racketeering here and there, modern nations. So now one nation has an illegal identity that can defend themselves at the same time. Note how you can't defend opinions with natures of law as force left by our founders for us to demonstrate to have free speech. You guys would rather just stay. You got a title. You got a position into the breaching organized crime method. Our founders are lost. They're dead. Forget them. That's you. That's the fake patriotism because that's used by what needs to pretend the positive because we're fighting a fact cheap nature where it counts. That's why the crazy, all the go to space, spend trillions. When before cars, with the slavery and torture of our founders, no torture, forced. See, we're not being allowed to show how the exception nature racketeering. There are proofs that they invested so many people with the criminal justice into pretending things because you know everyone's a victim of what is former director of the FBI down. Other agencies, their family members already raised like this as the only people allowed to deal with whether it is positive or negative as standing criminal insidiousness natures and as logic racketeering roles. All kinds of roles with medical corruption, facilitated, maintained, manifest clicks, and then exploitations of that. Their uses of the drug dealing with the interbranch drug clicks, not just the ways we realize where they're undercover and stuff like that. Those undercover positions, like that guy who goes, he's a victim, but he's also a victim predator. In other words, he's also a great asset to be able to, where they catch all different kinds of predators. But see, these people are in collusion. The Justice Department, the Pentagon is in collusion with what was left, states and areas in collusion. No one had sophistication before this was here. That's why we have criminally foreign influence zoning laws. You can't deny it, but with lies, delusions, criminally foreign influence scientists standing for that, not by accident, forced offensively, fake care. You pretend people are not nice if they do it. Now this is aggression with interbranches that are racketeering natures. Now, what do you do when you're individually, everyone in your branch, individually grouped and together, all private tied to it, have already been and already exploited their life progressions, methods already exploiting the standing self-valued, standing criminal insidious as nature or volume that each identity of the ground location is, especially legal ones, especially campus ones, distinctly and non-distinctly tied to their life progressions, because this identity of volume's relationship to itself through this tactically denatured native identity of value of the ground actual to our actual quality of fact achieving nature value, which is simultaneously distinct and not non-distinctive values actual course. The algorithm's actual course. Algebra's actual identities course. Algebra is the identity of volume. That every identity is a slash the identity of nature as value as its. This one identity of volume that only fills forever nature. Science reveals this. But we are offensively being prevented calm speech. Now, and by the same misprision groups and uses of victim predators, tactically through criminally foreign, they have culture recorded consciously, effectively, breaching organized crime method here, there, modern nations. Everyone never heard the Trinity. That's culture. They have fake sides. They're fake middle. Physical delusions, criminal foreign influence, and then passions and emotions within as identities of the grounds, jobs, positions, systems, positions. Self-valued, facilitate only there if you're going to be in collusion with originally still criminally foreign influence. You have to understand that and how James Madison only had they were going to stick this no matter what here and there. It's an extortion method even of kings, even of presidents. Recorded they don't have free speech. Recorded they are forced to pretend other. Recorded everyone's forced on like worse what I said regarding market value positions. Value in trouble all the time now for by accident. We have a human fact achieving nature illness. Everyone has right fears because we're in an ill system that was never liberated. And that's in fact achieving nature method. This is exploiting our identity of value as nature, as the identity of science it is, which is the volume that only fills. And the yin yang, ancients revealed this by valuing the science we actually are. This is why and how we are in each individual as a nature, as an identity of volume that is simultaneously a grouped identity, parted as a sex, and is simultaneously a grouped identity, bonded as a species, and that is temporary positive and temporary slash lasting positive or negative is our relationship to, again, a value nature system that these are all tactical ulterior from. Value roles valuing the perfect world forsaken by offensively facilitated roles with the exploitation of each age of fact cheating nature to maintain fake integrity, looking as if it's real. This is intercampuses of my city of each age of them, even the ones I didn't go to. No, I went to a summer school class in 8th grade tied to this. It was in racketeering that was used to facilitate racketeering. That was his military racketeering roles too. Originally, still criminally foreign influence, fake. Now, see, this is also uses of the sensibilities of people with the terms like that, so they could keep. See the people stacking of the VA. because this is fact treatment nature racketeering. This is value treatment racketeering. This is passion and emotion racketeering treatment. In other words, they're needing to pretend passions and emotions out of sequence and needing to have people do it with areas. For a crime method that in the past and in the active, it's vertical and horizontal. In other words, this is a method that makes it so they won't let people talk about the past honestly, because they already locked everyone into roles lying about the past in sequence. Whole bunch of nations at once. Exploitations of that you recorded how used. There were a whole bunch of people from my grammar school who recorded and confessed and demonstrated crime acts roles with people associated with prison cliques. And I found out about this later from other confessions from strangers. See, there's a pattern of racketeering with a whole bunch of federal criminals, foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprise, private ones recorded with predicate acts, in other words, as strangers, even online, with categorically, sequentially pretended emotions and passions in relationship to mail crimes and wire crimes. Not just the online, whatever their narratives are, with the litigation of that recorded also involved also, because this was leading up to the Trade Center attack with our side's roles, with the other side's already they were already union insights onto you know fighting about value agreements as positive in relationship to wars and crazy things, but that was never positive. It was still criminally foreign influenced. There was still never unabridged constitution, and worse, sub rosa racketeering of language. So it was facilitated specifically to maintain itself valued by the identities of the branches, each individually grouped and together. So therefore, crime methods and natures individually grouped and together. And it engineered all to roles valuing that exploitation of that through valued hiding life progressions, blamed on other things others themselves. Again, needing to be dealing with positive and negative, as again, as identity nature, which is both at the same time. I just reminded it's real values course, which is simultaneously also two semi-natures beyond this. And it is simultaneously beyond that a complete nature of volume that has and that we have simultaneously a distinct and non-distinct relationship to simultaneously. In other words, its value of relationship to itself, every part, everywhere it is, even the only semi-nature of itself, that simultaneously bonds each individual identity of value progression grouped and all together at once. And it's in other words, this is the value of identity, the one that is generated matter. Matter they couldn't bang into each other and be generated. This is volume science actual. Now, see, we have this obfuscated because we have racketeering that modern nations were again facilitated to self-value roles with and as organized crime, criminally foreign influence roles with states and areas, criminally foreign influenced database relationships, criminally foreign influence roles with life progressions from that, forced before our founders were born by an organized crime racketeering method. I'm not a lawyer. And these are the experts on racketeering from former director of the FBI down, a whole bunch of people associated with CCSU, dozens of people associated with this and with other like UConn. They were involved with all natures of racketeering, involved with all natures of crimes, and as people associated with the intercities minority that are a whole bunch of names, but that are that minority that are originally and still the world's most responsible still victim predators, but still most responsible on our side. And with the other ones here, they're the same roles, same problems there. Distinctly sickly. So just keep this from being discerned how sickly, non-distinctly. So science and free speech was never allowed, and we have to deal with especially the gun and problems with the police pretending accidents, shooting things, forcing accidents that they call accidents because they're going to go to the courts that are involved with racketeering with them already. They were already stacking fake recorded things into branches together, grouped, and individually racketeering natures. They'll put you in jail, use jail as a weapon like that, and just pretend not to. And, the sick like gangs, and in collusion with them, and it's juxtaposed with them undercover. So if you try to tell on their actually recorded roles, even with child abuses, there are even women. There are a whole bunch of men and women already invested needing to self-value databases in relationship to, worse than slander, worse than libel, worse than extortion, identity theft, identity fraud with databases tied to racketeering with Justice Department, criminal justice, intercampuses, roles with that, uses of all that, you know, even the force. They have fake sides, everything. And they have where they pretend Jedi mind tricks and stuff like that. This is the extension of the men and women of the species being hurt by the mass amount of names that are just a minority. But they're just defending titles blindly and overtly criminally. They don't care because former director of the FBI down, other agencies, their family members already invested to all kinds of database racketeering, and like with these two Mendez police. And with police forms in my area, with their roles with the kids, with different programs, even police explorers, even PAL gyms, even other gyms with the ties that go back and forth for fact cheaping nature racketeering roles. These are prison stewardships and roles with undercover and with databases originally and still. Now this is they invested. Facebook has recorded, confessed, and demonstrated racketeering acts, racketeering methods, physical delusions, but also criminally foreign influenced acts and racketeering acts with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, with intercity schools. The same ones involved with that are involved with racketeering with UConn. Now, the same ones involved with that are involved with racketeering with a whole bunch of different nations. Russia has got involved crime, Russians against Russians. They're using the identity. You have psychology with all kinds of physical delusions, all kinds of natures of racketeering juxtaposed. They maintain so many families, more and more and more. Everyone fake positive valuing, not by accident, valuing the life progressions originally and still in sustained ways, maintain, motivated, blamed other things, others themselves, even right through families. They're recorded and involved in sustained ways, lying to family members. Like these two Mendez police are involved with child trafficking natures of people of crimes, also with female judges, with child sex offenders, and with a whole bunch of natures of other child abuses and sexual and medical and other natures of formal drug crimes and overt drug crimes with the same courts and their family members and their locations and roles, having had the identity of the ground locations, like places in Cromwell, like places from associated with each of the boxing gyms, like each of the identity of the ground locations. Now they have the sensibilities of the people already shown illusions. And what I showed Counter illusion is I never told a lie. I let people perceive illusion with the last time I was in Manchester, because they said I was going to fight, and I had to fight the next day, and that was involved with their use of the word violence, and that was involved with their use of Sammy Vega with this, and with CCSU involved with Justice Department racketeering, with prosecutors, a whole bunch of people associated with the corner of all the way with the hills on Wells Road, all the way to CCSU, involved with a whole bunch of nations of involved with them uses of the ground are gathered around. So connected to our quality of fact treatment nature as the nature of volume, as a nature of volume. Each. See, as we are, each is a nature of volume as the nature of identity's value, which is simultaneously the nature of volume as value, simultaneously with what is invisible but still discernible, because that's our course. This invisible but still discernible identity. So they have the beginning of the Old Testament, they have the beginning of the Quran out of sequence, here and there, and maintained that not let free speech here and there. We don't have free speech. Sickly distinctly and sickly non-distinctly. ISIS is recorded in collusion with all kinds of racketeering with Hartford Hospital, with locations next to it, with other hospitals, with locations next to them, with their roles, with manifest pseudo-positive valuing natures, criminally foreign influence, and then exploited through their life progressions. Now, through their needs now to hide roles with and as criminal and serious natures, legalize real worth, fake patriotism, fake science, fake sequence, mandated law thefts. See, you can't teach about what slavery is about without teaching about the mandated law thefts. Our organized crime countering bodies are already in collusion, already self-valued, how they're raised to roles with it, already predators. So they have to value how the whole identity of all the jobs at once, already invested to the identity of the ground, value treatment justifications. You can't justify that, defend their treatments of what is positive or not without being a style of liar, without valuing sequence shifts originally still trick statutes, sub rosa, consciously criminally used with active fact treatment, value treatments of the law for active sequence shifts, active and regarding, especially when things happen once people try to complain about it first, because they're pretending they don't understand, because they're just defending the identities of their jobs, the identities of they can't defend legitimately, like the identities of logic experts. This is logic's course. I'm not a doctor. I'll delineate their delusions from their recorded whole bunch of names, how they're recorded involved with a whole bunch of racketeering acts with evidences and methods recorded in cases already. They already have everyone incapable of being legitimately as juries originally instilled. That's why we need to have this is all these negatives embraced by pantheism. That's going to own them over to the identity of system that heals on by itself, and that's the liberation of our fact treatment nature, which is the liberation of the ground below our feet, which is the liberation of the identity of the relationship that the ground has to water. Now, note something in the video with the project pollution. If you in that denatured relationship to nature, if you're any age, if you just throw the garbage on the ground, you're right. You don't have time to walk over there. with all this. But when we stack this, people will help. And I'm just the species coach. And this is just, where who lives. Hopefully, someone in one of those places desperate like that, forsaken. See, that was built to be forsaken. This is what color was used for by this organized crime method then and now, to keep that nature, those points of correlation and demonstration of what is forsaken there and how that is actually exploited, again, by pseudo positive. What is maintaining all roles too, blaming the real causes of it on other things, others themselves. This is intercampuses of each age. This is what forgiveness is about, because this nature of organized crime method, it's maintaining roles with criminal foreign influence, but it wasn't sourced by one modern nation. It just maintained roles because everyone's already invested. Quality of fact sheet nature, quality of premises treatments, quality of sequence treatments, as conviction natures, personal and formal, especially. You can't defend that and us at the same time. You need to pretend not to realize offensively. You need to value facilitated means to pretend offensively to perceive things. Need to value that with precedence so that you can ignore people and just say, oh, they should sue. But the courts are with the crime methods grouped and together with the other natures of branches of government. They're preventing mandated law because they're already invested to racketeering with the databases. These are a whole bunch of women involved with crimes with the kids. This is a whole bunch of racketeering that exploits former director of the FBI down. He didn't even understand until he was it. Criminally foreign influenced. Breaching screen and tool. Not science. Fool, but smart. Former director of FBI, Robert Luskin, was former standing chairperson on RICO law. Robert Chevrolet was his lawyer in a case in 2006. Leading up to that, and in a case in the Trade Center, but leading up to the 2006 case, they were involved with a whole bunch of confessed and recorded roles with offensive evidence reception crimes that show a pattern of offensive evidence perception crimes. In other words, the courts are caught with their police and with foreign and domestic military with uses of identity of the ground where they pretended to perceive things. Like, for example, with courage. And this is important because this is also how Connecticut was brought into the World War I, both by what was forced to fight just to stay a role, abridged, extorted like each position of fact treatment nature in France. That's why George Washington, the French general, had to leave slavery overt with color in this organized crime method against every single fact treatment nature position. Difference, no. Invested. And then in layers to motivations, natures, needs, interests, relying upon pseudo positive. With and as their value treatments a relationship to and as this actual, but also two natures of actual. The one that is actual, not let its course, which is about what is complete. So what then and now can't sustain mandated law. This is where the beginning of the movies for the cartoon devil approach and for the see, but with this, I want to make like this is a whole industry that you would. I don't want to own it. I want to be the coach of the species, though. I want our species to realize us all the positives of countering a semi-ancient shared identity, negative value, gauge progression, self-value, and the value of being able to counter that which is maintaining its self-value, even if it's not an archetypal criminal enterprise, which the devil is conceived as, not just by this art with Little Rap Guy and friends, they're going to teach you about Romulus and Remus. They're going to teach you about how this nature of volume is simultaneously three natures of volume and is simultaneously five semi-natures of volume, by and as the value of one nature's identity of relationship to itself. And understanding what the value of that is understanding that and how and why yin yang cannot be separated. And because its identity of relationship to itself as the nature of volume, to the extent we could discern, as a transverse section of it, of the invisible but still discernible. It is self-generating. It is simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, the identity of space and the identity of forever, and their identity together. And the value of that as the nature of volume. That is the value that are those three together. And as the identity that will only stay positive unto itself. And regarding Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to itself, which is Earth's difference, and or even as exceptions, and where and as and how Leith of Hadith, even Leith of Hadith is in demonstration of that. The identity of value progression perfect will only stay one nature and method of science, self-value here, as Earth simultaneously distinct and non-distinct value relationship to the rest of space, which is most probably because we're closest to the inherent nature of volume gained through and as the value that space forever and the identity of value they are to simultaneously are together. Again, beyond that too. Religion through. Some bring the names. Called Campus 2, called Lost and Found. Campus Mars, see, it calls you home, all gather round. So they have also uses of the word theory. See, every word is a word / value. And that is to show how every word's value is simultaneously increasing. And that is where and as and how that value is controlled by the algorithm. The algorithm. The one before computers were invented, beyond any invention that will ever be of humanity, and while being the value of each invention complete. See that there are patterns, like when they say self-worth, when they say there's another pattern, what is it called? The phrase they use. Passive aggression. Passive aggression is a means to pretend not to realize databases racketeering, sequence shifts, verbal racketeering, roles, evidential racketeering, as our identities of law originally and still, all private tied to them, intercampuses before they were and still. maintained all roles needed to hide life progressions individually grouped together, not just needing to hide them, needed to hide them in a whole bunch of other motivations, natures, needs, and interests juxtaposed. So all could only see each other and with things that they could blame, oh, that's just that, and pretend it's just that. But they're in the background line because they're criminally foreign influenced. That with their so we have shared policing with a whole bunch of people with Puerto Rico associated with racketeering with criminal justice. A whole bunch of people with Mexico associated with racketeering with criminal justice, especially with psychology. And with this is interbranch racketeering individually, executive branch, their equivalent there. See, modern nation suits and ties. Each branch that dies. The whole ground's denatured. Means to it. Because this nature shows that the one way means just come out of nowhere. One way, lethal IDs. And that's what this is designed to maintain self-value, because in that are life progressions. And as that are standing life progression cover up natures. So there is a record. There were a whole bunch of people associated with identities of the ground, like Stop and Shops, involved with the other method slash S bonded intercampuses of each age, and how this is connected from right over the bridge in Glastonbury, right past the state judicial branch offices, with the Oliveri family, and with a Weathersfield Pizza there in that corner, involved with a whole bunch of people with CCSU, with racketeering, with a whole bunch of natures of courts, and sequence shift roles with that, wrongdoing with that, wrongdoers, wire crime roles, identity theft, sequence shift, identity theft roles with WFSB, fake news, crime acts, not legitimate fake news, with people that are involved with foreign and domestic military racketeering on off their location and locations next to them, and state police involved with racketeering with forensics clicks all through houses in my area. All because they want all part of the sequence shift racketeering. They already did it in cases, so they're preventing mandated law. This is how you see. This is how they're preventing anything but criminal insidious hands on American history's values. Overtly and simultaneously, insidiously. We have misprision criminality, all kinds of racketeering, especially through all kinds of ways. You know how many nature? So we have this is used. This is maintained through methods and natures of terrorism. We already have the mouths of our leaders shut up here, there, so many ways. All through other motivations, natures, needs, interests, as victims, only capable of responding by valuing only let realize facilitated qualities of fact-keeping nature counters. All self-defeating. Trinity is about culture. They are offensively aware of evidence racketeering. Needs this is all kinds of mass wrongdoers and wrongdoing for the people next to them needing it. And then they're gonna need it. But this is with all kinds of people from my campus when I was a kid that are involved further, that I never had conversations with, and they're needing to pretend that they're forcing sustained you right to lie as roles with the sickest self manifest, worse than the sickest nature as natures of individuals, as the identity of each branch, and as the identity of each campus actually in relationship to this. But from where we're in as now, identity is valuable for then while being from beyond the campuses. This is a method of child abuse that is keeping only let realized roles with criminally foreign influence. Evidence is racketeering. Uses of each roles with each age of fact should be nature in a trap designed specifically to keep sick people into branch. As the identities of the law, I can't defend that and stand our history told true and with sequence true. And from those positions, now they have standing acting in relationship to the mandated law. They have already invested women judges to forging names, switching names, crimes roles, racketeering uses by former director of the FBI down, foreign and domestic military, shared policing of Caldors in the past, Ames, I believe. I don't know if it was Ames. I'm sorry if it wasn't. Maybe it was Bradley's. I don't know. I'm sorry, Bradley's. But it's nothing. It's the shared policing of the. They're using what they have. What the law tells them to hide legitimately, to hide what they were involved with in sustained ways, because everyone's facilitated to roll with it. Everyone's facilitated to need to pretend to perceive things that they can't pretend on paper. Not without criminally involved interbranch racketeering rules. And nature's already with precedents that already self-valued what is exploited sick already overtly on the outside of life that is covered up with its with the inside of our private and interbranch roles with value treatments in relationship to all that actually causing the negative value nature progressions acts and natures like the predicate acts methods too, because these are bonded natures of motivations actually recorded, like how they use the identity even of parks simultaneously with the sensibilities on Trinity College and on CCSU involved with the racketeering with the color, uses of Gail King, uses of people that are quote unquote experts on the law tied to her. They're predators of the law, roles with what you can't defend, and also at the same time. I know that Oprah Winfrey is stronger than me in many ways, but and I know that not one woman had free speech because and we have too many women formally in the background with these racketeering, with the men attaching us with themselves too, attaching us to fake words, fake sequences, fake behavior, valuing those sequence shifts and quality of fact, human nature racketeering to pretend other and get away with it. So we have a whole bunch of natures of gun crimes, a whole bunch of nature of gavel crimes, pen crimes, verbal crimes, sequence shifting crimes. So too, they wasted Barack Obama's presidency. They wasted the talents of Donald Trump's presidency. And so everyone needs to blame now. So we have to blame the acts. But we have to counter. See, this is this Kerr family, this Demora family, a whole bunch of other ones the Oliveri family and the Fienza associated with houses in my area that are that pretended me because they pretended me to fake locations with them. Their roles with fake conversations with them, fake sequence relationships with them. Their roles with untimely deaths through time connected, especially if they were all made up, especially if they were not all made up, because they were used for other natures of crime, intercity connected crime methods. Because they're forging names, switching names, using database racketeering acts, pretended real, and they're leaving no means to counter because they're forging names and switching names. Intercampuses with the racketeering that is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with their interbranch police and with foreign and domestic police. Criminal uses of their roles with investigative spots on a constant used on a constant to hide their original still criminal foreign influence. Crime acts tied, live progressions, actually recorded natures, and actually recorded values that are needed discerned by each age of correlation nature, not by accident. Child abuse on and off campuses, from the off the ground of education. See this there were also people with religious spots involved with this Kerr house. These are Washington D.C. Trade Center, and there are a whole bunch of people associated with the DeMorrow family, and a girl I don't know, but they tried to film other probably. There's probably a picture of that, and that's tied to their racketeering with Italy, with medical corruption, and with Justice Department corruption. See, the guy with the shiny bike, and so my new and past neighbors involved with this. When with witness protection program too, used criminally, and these are other Latin gangs and judges retired in standing, even women judges. These are the further involved with all kinds of racketeering with the kids, and with the way they interact with each other, and then they talk about it fake because they're setting up acting, and they're keeping that sustained to keep really bad people. I don't know the Zachary Comey. In other words, there was one time I was a kid, and they had him. They confessed. He demonstrated. They don't. He doesn't know that he was involved with the racketeering that first the illusions took victim. I don't know how they made everyone victim predators in narratives that I need to counter, that I had no conversations with. They tried to make it, a trick. Is a take a picture of someone walking by you, pretend it's in a different year too. Probably with there's a Kevin Harris recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also involved with this interstates and worse, racketeering with databases and with medical families, with crimes with overt criminal enterprises, with racketeering with databases and with evidences and criminal uses of depositions leading up to and in cases and fake sides of issues. Because then when they do, they're using time too fast, too slow, and they're blaming it on self-valued, criminally foreign influenced, not enough time for quality of fact treatment, not by accident. So they have everything naive, and that's his life, and you can't defend that and reveal the free speech science that it takes to heal the soul of the souls of the people still left forsaken. So they're keeping everyone a fake identity, forced respected. We need to fight about actual quality of fact treatment nature. We don't need to fight about physical culture. We need to fight about Trinity value, which is further only gaining the nature of volume. This is not just 053, it's 345 for one. Boxing is fun. One way alone. So we need. So I'm being extorted too. Those are predicate act roles. So there's also crime method preventing mandated law while simultaneously pretending that people should try to prove things in courts, because they're also simultaneously self-valuing what again juxtaposes a minority as the minority that maintains the masses, both parties, each branch of government individually grouped in together crime methods that and acts and natures that are maintained effectively, easily maintain criminally foreign influence. So we have Interreligious spots also tied to the value treatment uses of their of fake positive collusion, fake sides, fake difference of correlation nature with religious locations, with training of the religions, because these are also database relationships, intersciences relationships, value treatment relationships, where whereas we have scientific collusion, I mean, we have scientific consensus recorded, used, like, for example, that phrase used through and as criminally foreign influenced uses of it, and with and as physical delusions juxtaposed with the quality of fact, cheap nature, intersciences. So we need free speech, though, and being allowed there. There's the fact, cheap nature, organized crime method, offensively, of pretending to be about facts, and what convictions should be attached to them, offensively, to pretend not to realize roles, preventing mandated law, preventing counters to courts that prevent anything in writing, and prevent anything but blaming people in a way that's going to make you look like you're part of the fake sides with them. In other words, and you make everyone invested to sequence shift roles, and treatments of others. In other words, I'm forced to speak about people that I don't even know, and they're needing to pretend other in the background, because they pretended things recorded into databases, like these two Mendez police involved. A whole bunch of people tied to them recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they were involved with drugs when crimes, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by my campus involved with them with databases racketeering that also involved judges retired and standing, and people with the same campuses involved now further with child offenders recorded. They used they've been using Facebook for medical racketeering and for human trafficking. Know how they have all these oh, we're against child abuse, try to report mandated law, actual crimes on there. They use the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court for racketeering, sexual harassment, all natures of extortion, identity theft, criminal uses of the identity ground locations on off CCSU, on off Trinity College. They're shared policing with, like, Puerto Rican people. They're shared roles with overt criminal enterprise, but actually evidence is racketeering acts with them. Wire crime rackets rolls with them. Fake, because we have people pretending to perceive things. It's not if they're spying on us, they're how they're using that. It's what they're pretending to perceive. They've been deceived and just deceived. They're victim predators. Our branches each individually grouped it together, and this is recorded, but they're not following mandated law. The WFSB recorded, confessed, and demonstrated federal crimes with a whole bunch of people through time, and actively against me. They told a whole bunch of fake news crime acts about the past, because they had to hide the lie progressions recorded, needed by the crime methods and natures associated with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, Middletown courts, that I wasn't even in when I was a kid, involved with this. Military, foreign, and domestic, involved on off the religious spots, uses of that by the pseudo positive, the uses of each value treatment. In other words, oh, we're this type of job, so we want to fight for this concept. This is database racketeering originally, and still you can't pretend any identity of the law or anything tied to it has integrity. You have to deal with actual facts when someone tries to report things. See, but we have the police chief recorded, confessed, involved with his family, using his family, other prosecutors using their family members' kids as sick weapons for offensive evidence reception, pretended to perceive things that they can't defend on paper because they're involved with sequence shifts, racketeering. Since I was in that same school, This is racketeering that maintain a whole bunch of people of foreign and domestic, including Russians, involved with the as victims, as victim predators, though here and there with psychology, with a whole bunch of Justice Department racketeering, Pentagon racketeering, intermilitary racketeering, originally and still. What do you think we lost to World War One? What do you think Joseph Mengele was about? That was already entrenched roles here. They were sophistication before. You think they weren't here too? Before our founders were born? This is a fake side. This is an identitative negative value nature progression disseminated times. This just reminds. So there are two Crone brothers, and there's a, I don't know, a Donahue, Erica Donahue. I don't know her parents' names. And they're involved with all kinds of prison racketeering with the various natures of court. A whole bunch of people associated with Detective Dillon and with CCSU with racketeering. With former director of the FBI down, criminal uses of the Wethersfield Park in the past, where they pretended things proceed, juxtaposed with no, they're pretending things were recorded, tied to things that might actually be recorded, but they're pretending things recorded also. In other words, they're trying to pretend things they were originally and still. They have all that they forced pretended by everyone, including our founders. Like why they had to leave overt slavery here. That was roles with what Captain Keeps methodically as a breaching organized crime racketeering method keeps everyone blaming the real causes of predicate acts and of mass wrongdoers and wrongdoing, mass criminal insidious natures of positive, offensively pretended not realized in the way of mandates course, vaccines. So this is the science of what we're doing. We're going to be free. To counter the forsaken, you have to admit the recorded offensive racketeering roles in natures and how they're actually recorded being used and having been used. There are proofs that real, especially if made up, that the narrative with the shooting of one of the Congress guys is tied to the racket, all the natures of racketeering juxtaposed with the uses of the past and active through time with people of the parks and the campuses in Wethersfield, and with the fire departments further involved with racketeering, with wire crimes, and with AT&T, and with natures of election crimes, and of natures of uses of the identity of the FBI individually grouped and together, pretending to be against what they're for. Many ways and how recorded, like child trafficking. So I'm not for that. You don't know that, but the women of the FBI and the men, distinctly and non-distinctly, are tactically pseudo-educated. They are tactically lied to, each age of fact-cheating nature. And they're made self-value roles. Now you can't defend that and liberate the FBI, which failed, which again failed, worse than failed in collusion with what is preventing us from demonstrating the organized crime, understand the organized crime racketeering method, the breaching organized crime method using human fact-cheating nature. Worse than obfuscating predicate value. Worse than obfuscating what really causes the groups that maintain the predicate acts sustained on areas, in which he uses that to maintain everyone self-valued roles, blaming those predicate acts on groups other, and in other words, and or groups within that. In other words, everyone rolls, blaming everything on others themselves, blaming that, valuing that always having been already having been. Vaccines begin. What speaks for religion? Fake. Fake. What speaks for black? What speaks for white? What speaks for clear? See, we have anyone willing to go up and fight about what they could get value because we have a whole bunch of fake positive logic treatment majors. We have that they are recorded and everyone misses. They're attaching people to these are racketeering roles with their kids too. All the groups tied to their kids. Now they need to hide live progressions. They need to hide their actually recorded natures when people speak. We have election crime, election laws, rules, racketeering, where they uses whereas now they pretend those laws are for them to be able to liable people who aren't even running for election. And this is with the racketeering. This is up per the some of the methods they use to keep the racketeering of the branches grouped and together. Uses of the individual also criminal from mayors and down with all natures of politicians to uses of voting is that they're doing it as standing criminal and serious natures as little but that's the theater we learn in school. Oh, and then this and that. And when someone talks, that's just they're pretending to believe about bullying offensively. People with all the psychology racketeering, because then when people speak about the past, they can it makes it sound like someone knew the person that walked by them, that or other that they need to describe. You know, in other words, action relationship to. This is a crime method of keeping state scenarios. All experts pretending they only told influenced, criminally foreign influence to, delusions only capable, tactical criminal hurt, criminal foreign influence education, fact cheating nature quality only capable of blaming uh, the real causes, of not being able to react when people mention that and how the Weathersfield police chief is using his is recorded using his kids, his daughter, and her kids, and her roles with the school for racketeering through the kids through time. His extended family, while Mazzucato associated with a bakery. Reno Mazzucato is also recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with racketeering acts with the Mayano family, with the Weathersfield police involved with the fake news crime acts and racketeering on and off Fox Connecticut News, intercities, criminal uses of all the drug problems on Hartford through time, with the racketeering with a whole bunch of people tied to New Britain Superior Court and to other natures of courts of the same nature and other natures in their buildings uses, on and off their campuses uses, and intercampuses databases racketeering roles uses used by them in the background to pretend things they couldn't pretend on paper. They've been preventing me free speech since I was a kid with offensive evidence racketeering, pretended perception things. Also, two speech classes I had when I was in high school. I recorded and confessed involved with all kinds of natures of racketeering. That is Washington D.C. Trade Center, Pentagon, Vermont, interstates, and worse than internation, in collusion with that with the foreign and domestic, many names with CCSU. There's a CJ. See, I knew he was involved with bad people. He's a victim predator. So I shouldn't have used aggression but I understood completely. But he's involved also with the racketeering at CCSU that is involved with election crimes and with the crime methods, for example, like having the FBI pretend it's against what it's for. That's exploiting where and as and how, like wars and things like that. They kept and keep value trade center value agreements. Former our FBI directors, other agencies, our legal directors kept them and keep them criminally foreign influence value treatments. Criminally foreign influence uses of identity, the ground uses of each age of correlation valued hurt by an organized crime method originally instilled. Religion Phil. Some bring the name. Campus Marcius calls you home to train. To lost and found. Now, if you call up their com, they also use for preventing mandated law to sustain racketeering acts and rules against people. Because this is where and how, like Farmington Avenue, on off the lawyer of the FBI there, and uses of the identity, the ground relationship of Harry Beecher Stowe and of the Mark Twain house there connected. Also, where as now it's connected to identity, the ground value treatments, and with English as one of the in all the each of the sciences, criminally foreign influence categorically, methodically. Again, in relationship to the organized crime method, racketeering method in American history is really about. Modern religions are really about. Now, debating this is fine, but do it on paper if you want to debate the debatable, or what you think is debatable. In other words, because this is involved with racketeering uses of those identity of the ground. With again, a whole bunch of people involved with the English department of CCSU, with the racketeering, with overt criminal enterprises, with the Wethersfield police chief, and with his foreign and domestic family recorded and facilitated into the narratives, with the perspectives pretended perceived by people associated with the English department of CCSU. Also demonstrated, recorded, confessed, involved with like what are you hiding? In other words, they have also the Paul Vance and what's his name? Their treatments of all the people associated with Donald Trump and with Barack Obama, and there are people that were associated with the Reagan administration, and their roles with these cliques with elderly homes, uses of identities like a private companies originally instilled from off their campuses, maintained criminally foreign influence, needing to hide it with former director of the FBI down. Organized crime, other agencies sick. Organized crime countering bodies incapable of defending their families' roles with racketeering against kids, uses of identity, the relationship to the ground, uses of them spreading illusions, lies about who was in classes together when back in the day, so people would remember that. They repeat things so they could have things remembered wrong, and to exploit that in cases criminally with recorded crime methods individually. The branches will not allow anything but criminally foreign influence value treatments, and they'll hurt you with it, distinctly and non-distinctly. The judicial branch, they're going to do any. They're going to put fake. They already recorded fake things in the databases through time. They can't defend their roles with that, which is also their racketeering with the other branches individually grouped and together. Whole bunch of crime methods bonded. Whole bunch of crime natures bonded as how actually recorded. So they're valuing statutes that say that's legal, but they're criminally preventing acceptations criminally exploited, racketeering of themselves with evidences, with child offenders of a whole bunch of juxtaposed natures, sickly distinctly and non-distinctly as one, sickly distinctly and non-distinctly, with whole crime methods against each age of fact treatment nature sustained, with against each age of each identity of the ground location, even if and especially regarding how using them too. If you want to defend the value of people who give their time and life for service. Take that service away from being racketeering service, which is originally and still all it is. Rolls with it or get the hell out. That's recorded actually. Originally and still, we have obligations to understand this the sustained impositions on the north end of Hartford, with the high predators associated with Fox Connecticut News, associated with the high predators associated on and off WFSB locations, and their racketeering with DACA, also recorded and confessed by them, involved with people stealing my identity online, all nature, and with their roles, with the courts involved with the wire crimes and the mail crimes, falsified police reports, officers forging and switching names, racketeering acts from with the same houses that were also racketeering acts with the former police chief's girlfriend, who's also used, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with their roles with racketeering, uses of them, criminally foreign influence, uses of identity ground, their relationships to programs with a Vega, the name Vega is involved with their racketeering with news crimes, and with there are people involved with Justice Department racketeering, Pentagon racketeering on and off CCSU, and with the racketeering with even with all private tied to them. The cases with the racketeering natures every day in court, just like they did what we're going to show in this movie, and with the industry we're going to build. If you listen to me, New York and species, because what the game does is it has to help the species. At the same time, we have to do the same thing, which is and simultaneously more than just admit, but just admitting reveals means that we're not there, and they're going to be seized. Just admitting what we're going to draw, like the identity ground. Now, but note something. So all the time when we list out all the discernible line progressions, focused, concentrated by a breaching organized crime method on the people stacking. That's not just that physical location. And that is with, and as misprising and fake sides of correlation nature through a crime method that motivates and keeps motivated a whole bunch of natures of people making opinions on things as quality of fact should be nature that are preventing people from countering sequence shift racketeering roles. Forced. And that's what's really keeping everyone criminally foreign influenced. That's what's really keeping Mudd, because he went to a lot of classes. He worked for the criminally foreign influenced government. Fake sides! CNN, please fix the fake news and the racketeering roles with CCSU. Please don't pretend it's personal. I begged you guys. You guys are racketeering acts with New Britain Superior Court with this, with people involved with trade center predicate acts, clicks, drug clicks, crimes with child sex offenders, with their family members, especially if that made up further and recorded with predicate acts with people with that sick natures that couldn't pretend their integrity legitimately. We have them originally still criminally foreign influence methodically how fake branches, Bob. So why make it worse? Why make me paint it? I don't know what it has to do with the people. The house, there's houses near and on the hills, on Wells Road, and that web school and houses next to it, and people associated with, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with databases racketeering, and with evidence racketeering, child crimes also with the child sex offenders, with the military cliques. This is also how they have foreign and domestic militaries, and they have force sustained, self-valued, fake positive that is simultaneously because of the Cold War narratives that are really needed to try to explain the nature of nave staging areas, questions and treatments of Pompeo, and of that whereas now these are people involved with racketeering, with a whole bunch of people with a taekwondo place across the street from where the Wethersfield Police Department is now. Those are people involved with racketeering further with the kids on off the where the middle school is, and further with the campuses intercities, with the same ones further involved with the racketeering with the databases and the kids on and off campuses. Illusions tied to that through time, tied to sequence shifts, needing to have the same, needed to perceive things per the racketeering with the sequence shifts inside courts proven and further recorded interstates, and worse than interstates maintaining the outcome. This was leading up to the Trade Center attack and in it. So there's a Justin Klavinskis. I don't know his wife's maiden name, but a whole bunch of people who had classes with her were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with like DACA marketing programs, and with people with other nations, police forms like and military like Kuwait, associated with deans also, with evidence racketeering, with database racketeering, attaching people to fake locations that are tied to racketeering, with courts doing that through time, with police forms doing that through time, with databases of schools being used to do that. How they're motivated to that is demonstrated and recorded by out of sequence. You know, and I tried to do to demonstrate at the time that which they recorded then and now they can't speak without them. They're in a trap. They also used lawyers and fake sides and value treatments of women and by a whole bunch of police forms who are even intermilitary and Navy and Coast Guard with psychology badges. They're doctors of psychology, but they're involved with racketeering with that. And they're involved with a whole bunch of lipoaggressions and natures and needs of and means of originally and still valuing it means to easily keep the real causes of negative value nature progressions acts and natures blamed to other things other than themselves. And this is roles again with child abuses that is simultaneously elderly abuses that you can't counter the impositions on the elderly and pretend that you can't has integrity. Logic is in the hands of criminal insidiousness, of criminally foreign influence sciences. And now they're preventing mandated law on a mass scale because they're just pretending they're already using all kinds of styles of racketeering liars, pretending users of titles reliant upon the like styles pretending that others think better than everyone else and themselves, but they're still acting. And then because then they can pretend that they're just stacking fake conversations. These are forging names, switching names, racketeering roles, natures, needs, interests, sequence treatments. The value leaks, leaks of IDs, the value grows. So I wanted the president to be aware of that. We have a whole bunch of people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the Wethersfield Police Department with all kinds of natures of federal crimes. It's also with crime method recorded consciously, juxtaposing people lifted to roles with New Haven FBI, with fire departments, criminally foreign influenced. We have people with sensibilities acting. They try to start fights with people smaller than you, so they can make you look like a bully, especially if you do something like boxing. They use their roles with each identity of the ground relationship to maintain them as roles with their racketeering. All the gyms in Connecticut, interstates, involved with these judges retiring and standing. All natures of abuses of each age of fact treatment nature, especially these probate courts, distinctly and non-distinctly, especially these superior courts, racketeering acts and roles, even with other cases people I don't even know, people I just know of, where they use other cases leading up to like where former director of the FBI was a defendant in a 2006 district case in Connecticut. There was racketeering with the court system on and off the state judicial branch offices with the people that only got who could get away with that by valuing the racketeering with the campuses before that recorded, which involved them with racketeering with drug dealing through the relationships and people that communicate with the police officers they put on the campuses. They were involved with racketeering that is inclusion with his intercampuses, live progressions from those campuses. Live progressions, the branches are individually grouped together. So they're a standing nature of beasts. Campus Marcius rises in ease. It's worse. It's worse.